My favorite artist is Jan van Eyck, who gives you a picture which satisfies all attentiveness to the smallest of the small and then all attentiveness to the largest of the large. I mean, that's one of the things that a picture is supposed to do for us. Art is life, and that it's, it in fact has to be, all of life. The awareness, the beauty, the ability to give to a viewer something which makes their life more what it is, more what it could be, and it's essential. It's like the clue to everything. It's a very kind of remarkable thing to connect the kind of mind freedom that's available to us in this particular landscape. It's about harmonizing, it's about living in the beauty, not so much just looking at the beauty. It's about how it gets into us and finally feeds the spirit. You look out and you literally feel you're the first person who was ever here, A lot has happened here in time, but then it's erased so quickly. Part of that is the wind and the rain kind of, cleanses the soil. I mean, footsteps left yesterday or vanish over the night. Happily, my earliest beginnings were with, Betty Parsons in the circle around the New York School of Abstract Expressionists, and Western space was definitely one of the elements in how that art was composed. I was doing white paper octagonals on a wall, and we were at a show in a museum in Dallas, and the critic came along and made mock introductions of, oh, this is Richard Tuttle, he's interested in impermanence in the arts, and she did that to Betty, and Betty just immediately snapped back and said, what's more permanent than the invisible? And any art form, there has to be an accounting of its opposite condition. You're going to be a visual artist, then there has to be something in it that accounts for the possibility of the invisible, the opposite of the visual experience. A painting or a sculpture really exists somewhere, between itself, what it is, and what it is not. Recently, I refined my sense about where my limitations are. In some sense, I was happy to think that each piece would be a kind of conjoining of architecture and calligraphy. Those then exist as definable poles, but then look in between. And that is this rich, rich vein that we don't really know very much about. As this house was being built, we talked about installing works of mine in the Klein collection. Yellow is a color of happiness, but I think it's also a very important color in general. I was tremendously enthusiastic about this yellow and these pieces that were yellow. What's really interesting to me is that you're weaving two separate groups in three separate rooms. And so you get a division and a fluidity that connects with the place. In some level, the installation, to use a horrible word, would be this sort of a weaving between my persona and their persona, and to create a kind of world in which you can invite your guests. An exhibition might be likened to a city. You don't even need to go to all the places if you don't care to. It would be enough for a visitor just to visit one village, but you have a choice. And I think that's the kind of exhibition I'm really thinking of. I think this village idea is a a way to invite the visitor in. Each village takes on a personality. You enter a room and you can scan that in a second, and wherever you're attracted, you can go in that direction. The sculptures sort of function as a way to help you get into that drawing space, which is really intimate. Each village has two groups of drawings. Each set of drawings seems to concern themselves with, say, how the piece meets the floor or how the piece meets the wall. Either concern of the floor, which is like concrete issues, or how it meets the wall, which is more like abstract issues. It's an old division between realism and idealism. The ideal says that the experience happens inside of you, which then would mean that everything from the conception of drawing to the color itself is inside of you. And the real is that everything is outside of you. But finally, it's art and art alone which can actually say what is the truth. You could say that the wire represents form, and then this overlying is chaos. Where in the world do you ever find an absence fill a solid and a solid fill an absence? This piece, as an artwork, can simply be giving us those two really disparate solutions to the definition of matter in one created form. I mean, the wood chips are, in some sense, a decorative element. It's an elaboration of the underlying wire structure. You can see the actual grains of this piece of wood here. You can experience that as really a pure drawing. Everything in life is drawing if you want. And drawing is absolutely quintessential to knowing the self, And I would even say that the art that survives, from one generation to the next, is the art that actually carries something that tells society what about self. One would say, in order to draw, you have to be able to see. Well, what about making drawings about an area where you can't see? And as obsessed as I am about the experience of seeing and the details of what I find most interesting is the part which I can't see. And so that's what I want to do in this Drawing Center show. I just want to look at these kinds of places. For example, ask somebody to draw blue, make a drawing of blue. You can't do that. The pieces are self-portraits. As all artwork is. Maybe it takes me 10 tries to make a drawing. Sometimes the art is actually in the 10th one, the final one. And other times it's in the whole 10. A couple times in my life where I really can look at something and say that, I did not make that. But in your heart, you know that you did go beyond yourself, or you enjoyed this kind of a leap. You get beyond this barrier that normally we live within. Art, unlike life, needs this heightening of reality. I realize that culturally we walk on a different ground than is in fact there, and that the psychological ground is a little bit higher than the actual ground. The emotion, of an art response, the energy does to me feel like motion. We use that word moved. I am moved, and yet we know we're standing right there, and we have this experience of being stationary and moved at the same time. And I guess what I'm trying to figure out is how to sustain the polarity where you can be the paintbrush of society, but also you can make the society your paintbrush.
To learn more about Art 21, Art in the 21st Century, and to download the free Educator's Guide, please visit PBS online at pbs.org. Art 21, Art in the 21st Century is available on videocassette or with additional features on DVD. The companion book to the program is also available. To order, call PBS Home Video at 1-800-PLAY-PBS.